Yo guys, with the new stuff coming to us on Thursday, the new decks, namely being branded Chimera, being playable then. We also get the full power Rescue Ace as least as far as we know of, and then we will get full power Pearly. I want to quickly go over the best decks or the most meta relevant decks and quickly rank them, ask the question and answer the question, where do these new decks stack up with all these old decks? Don't get confused by the Centurion picture here. Centurion is not coming, it's just stuck on this list here that I can't remove it for whatever reason. So let's just hop right in. We have tier 3 and Rogue 1, 2, 1.5 and top tier, and we will just keep all the stuff in Rogue that are belonging here in Rogue. First thing that we're going to talk about is Rika. Yeah, you might know that this deck is still around and it's actually still playable, in my opinion, in comparison to all the other decks, though it is a very rogue-ish deck. It is also a graveyard strategy that does not really work, so we are keeping it in Rogue. And I will not talk extensively about every deck. I will focus more on how the new decks will stack up, which is why we will also put them here at the end and then talk about them. I also have the Fire King on here. We can also just, for fun, talk about them because I guess, at least personally, that they will come in the next pack. If you have not seen the first leaks for the next pack, then go check out that video in the top right corner. It will be linked there. The next deck talking about is a Branded Despia. And Branded Despia is a deck, and it's the same in this TCG, right? I was on regional over the weekend and what won the event? Branded Despia, obviously. I have the feeling that Branded Despia can be one of the best decks in the hands of the right player, but if not, it's just like a good deck, right? So a really good pilot can make this a top tier deck, but I think at the end of the day it's more like a 1.5 strategy. It needs a lot of understanding of the deck, and I'm talking about the average player here. So how does the average player perform with the deck, not how does like the best branded player ever perform with this deck. Obviously, by playing Branded Despia you can reach a higher high if you are very skilled than if, for example, you are playing, let's say, something like Vanadium, because Vanadium is a way more linear than is Branded Despia, for example. There's way less room to improve. We have Exosister, which you don't see a lot on the ladder right now, but it's actually not a bad deck. You can play Shifter, it's a very anti-graveyard strategy, you have a lot of banishment in your deck. This is actually not bad. It can run stuff like Evenly Matched going second. So I think that's actually a solid tier 2 deck that actually not a lot of people are playing. And now I'm going to stop saying actually, because I realize how often I said this just yet. And then we have Tier La Mens, which definitely is surging up in popularity again. A lot of people are playing it again. It has some tournament tops. I still think this is more of a tier 2 strategy, even though I think it's better than Exosister is. Will become better once the horror stuff comes, which Decade might have indicated that we don't get it next pack. Not quite sure here. It's not something I have heard, but something I've read in the Master Duel Reddit. So we might not get the Horus stuff next pack, but then probably the pack afterwards, because then we should someday finish Age of Overlord. Also very hyped for the SP Little Knight. We have the Isolde Infernoble Knights representing, which is like Vanadium, a very linear combo deck, which combo decks are always bad in Master Duel because the existence of Maxi, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of good going second options normally, and you don't play a best of 3 where you can side end some if you need them. So I guess Infernoble Knight, in my personal opinion, is more of a tier 3 rogue strategy, to be honest. Obviously, if you can get all the stuff through with the deck, then the bot is nearly unbreakable. But in my opinion, at least, it's very hard to do so. We have Kashtira, Fenrir, indicating that still also a very strong deck, even though a lot of people opt to play the Kashtira Snake Eye variant, which just now I realized that I have uploaded the Snake Eye Oak, but it's nowhere to be seen here. Okay, we will just do it like this. For our tier list here, the Robina will be our Snake Eye deck, because obviously Flanneries is very, very bad, and we don't even need to classify it. It's a rogue, and it's like the bottom of the rogue, because they have definitely hit it too hard. Otherwise, Flanneries could be very nice in this current format, because they can play Shifter, but their engine is way too inconsistent. So the Flanneries birds are now the snakes, okay? We have Kashtira here. I think Ashtira is still a 1.5 strategy at the current moment, but definitely at the lower end here. We have Dragon Link, which has fallen off the popularity, was played by a lot of players in a lot of tournaments on the ladder. I think is now a really good rogue strategy that can still perform. We'll put them over Rika. We have Runic, the Runic Fountain representing it, in my opinion. Runic, because all of the hits that the cards have gotten. The deck is really reliant on all the quick play spells, obviously, to get the Runic Fountain going. And we have Runic Fountain at 1 currently, which is also not that great. If you lose your Runic Fountain, you can't really recover it if it's get banished, for example, which will even get worse when we get the Esper Little Knight, because then banishing the Fountain will be easier than before. So, yeah. I think Runic at the moment, not the biggest runner here. I would put this in front of probably, not really, right? I would put it like so. We will keep these in the rogue category. Unchained, the new beast coming into town, definitely pumping up the Labyrinth variant. Labyrinth Unchained, very, very strong in my opinion. If you have not seen that guide, go check that out. There's also an Unchained guide on the channel I just recently uploaded. Unchained, I really love it, a really cool deck. It's unfortunately also a very linear combo deck, so that's a bit sad. I don't know. I want to put it in tier 2, but I can't really. I will put it over Infernoble Knight, and I think I'm already being very fair when doing this. So now comes Snake Eyes in the form of birds. What are we doing with the Snake Eyes here? Obviously, this is top tier and remains top tier even after the new releases. We talk about Fire King, this could be interesting then, but yeah, this is not Florent Louis top tier, this is the Snake Eyes. We have Vanquish Soul, which also can play Shifter and stuff like Ghost Spell, which is very nice against Labyrinth. In my opinion, Vanquish Soul is kind of a like low tier 2 deck, and then we have Labyrinth itself, one of the top tier decks in my opinion, a bit above Despia here, which is why I would put them over it. They have everything that they need now. The only thing missing for this deck, also for the Unchained deck, is the SP Little Knight, because they are using the Unchained Sword of Rage, which is the best thing to go into an SP Little Knight with. But obviously every deck will profit from the SP Little Knight, though decks that have level 1 monsters that can go into an Animine, can go into a Linkuriboh or what else. Or, for example, a Cyburst deck that can go into a Linkuriboh. They are profiting more because they have more easy ways to go into a Link monster, which is definitely what you want to do when going into SP Little Knight, so you also get the banish effect, right? But SP Little Knight, I think we might see her in one of the upcoming packs, not too far gone, and then also the Typhon Starslayer. We have a Mannadium here, and I think this is one of the combo decks that I personally would put in the tier 2 category. I would not put this over any of these other non-combo decks. But I think it is just better than, for example, Infernoble Knight is, in my opinion. You could definitely disagree with me. I'm also not the biggest Infernoble Knight like expert, but as I already said, we are talking about the average player, not the pro player or the like super good Infernoble Knight player, which I think if you can really get the deck down, if you're really a master of the deck, it's a different story, right? So now come the new decks here. I think that Branded Chimera, and this is not like a hot take, is way better than is way worse than is Branded Despia, sorry. So we definitely have to put them behind Branded Despia, right? You are still playing the branded engine, so that's something. But I think also because this is more of a... This definitely does not really want to play into Maxi. You have to summon a lot depending on your hand, what you already have in your hand. So in my opinion, this is something like a top tier 2-ish deck. Even though I think it's not better than this tier elements, to be honest, but... yeah, not the biggest hitter here, and definitely a worse version than is the pure Branded Despia. The only upside is that they get their hard negates that Branded Despia does not really have. We get Pearly back, and this is very interesting because now Pearly can once again be played. In my opinion, this is one of the top 1.5 decks here. Might also become a top tier deck. Remains to be seen how this stacks up against all the fire stuff. I guess it's a bit harsh. They say Rescue Ace has a bad matchup against Purdy because the field spell protects you against destruction and targeting, and sorry, not against destruction, against targeting, and the Rescue Ace targets a lot. But all the time that I played Pearly against Rescue Ace, I always found this to be a very bad matchup for Pearly, honestly. But remains to be seen here with the Snake Eyes deck and the Ash and the Rescue Ace. All of them can, in theory, play the Ash and search a Kurikara to out the big cat here. So the reason why this is 1.5 is that obviously putting a big Towers monster on the board can definitely just end the game at that point here. But at the current moment, we have a lot of level 1 Pyro Searchers who can search or level 1 Fire Searchers, which can search the Kurikara, which means the top decks have a more easier access to out this thing. Also, if they play an Underworld Goddess, obviously the Snake Eyes cards can swarm the field and then just out this, which is why I don't put this in top tier. We have Rescue Ace, which I think will be a top tier deck. It was the same in the TCG and OCG. In the OCG, it was the most dominant, which is because this can play under Maxi way better, right? In theory, with one normal summon and one special summon, the special summon of the Turbulence, you could be able to just set up all of your trap and spell lineup, which is your main play anyway. So you can definitely very easily play into Maxi. This plays more into Maxi like a Labyrinth deck. With a Labyrinth deck, you would go, I don't know, normal summon Ariana and maybe search a lady, and then he goes Maxi, and then you might decide to just like put down the lady, for example, and you give him one card. And it's the same with Rescue Ace here. If you have access to your emergency, you can easily get access to your Turbulence, give them one draw, and set all your 4 cards, which is really, really amazing, which is also the reason why I personally think it's better than Labyrinth, but not necessarily better than Snake Eyes, though it remains to be seen how this playing into Maxi capability turns out for the deck. If the OCG tells us anything, then this should be better than Snake Eyes, honestly, but I don't think so. And then we have Fire King. Yeah, the Fire King cards coming, combining with the Snake Eyes engine. What will happen here? The Fire King, the most dominant deck in the OCG by far. Can't really explain why, to be honest. I cannot explain you why Snake Eyes worked out better in the TCG and this out better in the OCG. Both of them do summon a lot, so it's not the Maxi thing. But I think when Fire King comes out, this will be the top deck in the meta, and then it remains to be seen whether the second spot will be grabbed by Rescue Ace or it might be grabbed by Snake Eyes, and then I think Labyrinth is somewhere here, which is basically the same picture as it was in the OCG. Obviously, Branded Despia will actually be a nice deck when the full Fire lineup comes out, when also Fire King is out and everyone is on fire. Then Branded Despia might also be one of the top decks because this is one of the top counters for this strategy here, especially by playing, for example, the Shaddoll package if you want to. This can really hard counter all these decks. They have a tough time against Branded Despia. This also shows in the TCG where Branded is one of the best decks, even though we have this fire-centric meta. But yeah, I think this is what the decks will look like afterwards. And by the way, only because we have it here, Centurion, what will happen if Centurion comes out? This obviously depends on what they are doing with the King Calamity thing, the lock. If they keep the lock alive, then Centurion, because it's also very consistent in getting to the lock, might be like a good tier 1.5 option, right? But this remains to be seen. We definitely do not know enough when it comes to the ban list, when it comes to the release of this specific deck. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think of this list. Where do you think I am wrong? Obviously with the birds here, but do remember this is Snake Eyes. And let me know what you think of this. Thanks for being here. If you like my channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, as this helps me out a lot, and we will see each other obviously in the next one.